I don't know. I think it might be this.
Oh, okay.
We are ready
Good
when
to
you
go?
are.
Maybe.
Okay.
We can share.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 13th, 2025 meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Edmund Chinesky and I am chair of the commission for this year. I will now have my commission members introduce themselves. Peter, we'll start with you this time.
Peter Keebler, associate member.
I'm Matthew Whitecamp, an associate member.
Emery Quinn.
Rebecca Krepke.
Liam Reardon.
Also vice chair of the commission. If something horrible happens to me this evening, he will take the gavel.
It won't happen.
It won't, but just in case. Also in attendance from the city tonight, we have Anya and Brian from the planning office and our guest speaker at the back, who will be introduced in the time when she's spoken, or be speaking. So I have a brief introduction to the Historic Preservation Commission. Those of you who have been here before have heard this before. I will try to not belabor any points, but if you have questions, we'll take them as they arise. So, the Historic Preservation Commission has two roles. First, we serve as the Bangor Center Revitalization Area Design and Review Committee, designated under Section 71 of the city ordinances, which covers review issues in the downtown and waterfront areas of Bangor. And secondly, the commission has several responsibilities under the Historic Preservation section of city ordinances, which is Section 148, including issuing certificates of appropriateness for construction of or changes to buildings within the city's designated historic districts. Depending on the location of a property, we may be reviewing a proposal under both design review and historic preservation criteria. If all regular members are in attendance, and Nate, I know you were in attendance on Zoom, sorry we did not introduce you, this is also Nate King, regular member of the commission. Associate members will get to participate in the meeting, but don't vote on motions. All motions must have a total of 5 votes. I'm not gonna dig too much into some of the other nitty gritty, we'll deal with that as that arises. Order of the meeting, we will call applicants in the order that they appear on the agenda. When I call your project, I will ask you to present your application from the podium. Once you have made your presentation, I will first ask for the consultant's report. In his absence, we will read his comments into the record, or I will, and then we'll address his questions and concerns as they are risen in the report that we have. Thirdly, we'll take questions from commission members, and then third, any questions or comments from the audience. When questions are completed, the commission will have a discussion of the proposal and the standards of review under which the proposal is being considered. As with our last meeting, we'll follow the new protocol and do everything step by step through each standard of review. And then we'll have separate motions for each of those items. 3 final comments for applicants before the HPC. If it looks like your project will not be approved, you may choose to withdraw your application, amend it, and then resubmit your application for a future meeting, saving your application fee. If you disagree with the decision of the commission regarding your project, you of course have the right to appeal the decision to the Board of Appeals. And all projects need to be started within 6 months and completed within a year. Otherwise, a new application to the commission will need to be made and approved prior to starting your project. You can also ask for an extension via the minor revision process. Before we begin, are there any additions to the agenda for consideration? I know we have the piece that you had already said, but anything from the commission? In the interest of expediency, we'll start with the addition to our agenda. So I need a motion from the committee to adopt the findings and decision. Yes,
For 218 Ohio Street.
thank you. For 218 Ohio Street.
I move to adopt the findings and decision for 218 Ohio.
Regular member votes.
Second. Oh,
Can I have one of the regular members make the motion?
I'm
please?
sorry.
Thank you, though.
I'll do it.
Second.
I already did, right after Matthew made.
Emery, can you repeat it for the record, please?
Yes, I second.
No, you have to make the
You have to start the
Oh.
original. Yeah.
Okay, that we accept the
adoption.
adoption of the Bangor Children's Home, 218 Ohio Street, Bangor.
Okay,
I second.
thank you. We'll call for a roll call vote. Nathaniel, I will start with you.
Yes.
Anne Marie,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Liam,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Motion passes successfully. Mr. Greenlee, would you kindly approach the podium and present your project for us?
Thank you.
So, I will introduce just for you.
Okay.
So this is a design review application. This is for 16 Union Plaza, map lot 042-066, the Bangor Center Revitalization Area. The applicant is, / owner is Mark Wheatley. The approval has been requested for a design review to add 2 windows, replace 4 windows, and add 4 fire escape platforms. The property again is located at map lot 042-266 in the Bangor Center Revitalization Area. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, you covered it pretty much. It's the 3rd floor, and I'm replacing the windows that are there with new windows, and I need to add 2 to bring it up to code in the 2 rooms that don't have windows in there. And I need to put fire escape platforms on, 2 on either end of the building.
Okay.
I can answer any questions you might have about any of that.
Would you guys like me to put Mike's questions first?
Yeah,
Yes,
Mike's
please.
question.
Okay. So I know there were a couple emails going back and forth. He had sent some initial questions. I believe you responded to them, and then I believe there was follow-up. So
Yeah.
bear with me as I work through that.
Absolutely.
We'll start with the initial email. So you had stated in your application, and this is Mike's words, that 2 windows are being added and 4 are being replaced.
Right?
Okay. The window schedule for Matthews Brothers shows a quantity of 8 windows and that are 42 by 58 inches and 1 that is 78 by 60 inches for a total of 9. So the building windows show 3 sides of the building but do not clearly show which windows are being replaced. The front windows on Union Street feature awning windows above and below a fixed panel. Are these being replaced with double hung windows as shown in the schedule?
Those windows, the sheets that I submitted were just the
Okay.
specs of the windows. They weren't how many. It's the 2, replacing 4 in the front, 4 in the back, and putting 1 new one on either side.
If it helps, I have your initial response to that, which
Okay.
was, so there are currently 2 windows on the Union Street side, which is the front, and 2 identical windows in the back. Those are being replaced.
No, 4 on either end. There's 4 on either end. The pictures are just exactly like there's one in your package. This is exactly what it's gonna look like.
Okay.
Everybody should have those pictures.
Yeah, I got it.
And
Yes.
the platforms will match the picture of those stairs. That's why I included that, just to show that they're just gonna match those stairs so it'll look better. But that's exactly what they're gonna be. And the pictures are exactly what it's gonna look like.
So 4 and 4 and then 1.
4 on either end and 1 on either side.
Okay. And I think you also submitted that, as far as the attachment perspective, they're gonna be attached directly to the brick surface.
Say that again?
You are attaching your fire escape platforms directly to the brick
Directly to
surface?
the brick surface, yep. We're gonna use suspension chains as opposed to under beams, because it just looks better. You won't see anything, they'll just look like they're sitting there.
That was just follow-up to the application, that wasn't anything specific for Mike. I didn't have anything else for Mike, Anya.
No, there's nothing else.
Can I ask for clarification?
Of course.
On the response? This is actually the 3rd floor
That's
based
the
on
3rd floor.
on response.
Yep, that's the
Okay.
3rd floor.
So
There
this
won't be
is-
any more awnings on those windows, because you can't get out the window onto the fire escape with the awning there. So
I see.
that's exactly what it's gonna look like from
Okay.
either end. That's what it's gonna look like from the front or the back or either side.
Gotcha, okay.
There won't be grass.
What's that?
There won't be grass.
Yeah,
There won't be grass, otherwise you put that in there, you have to put it on the top of the building.
Yeah.
Two stories
That's
below
probably why
that.
they didn't know what, if it
Two
was the
stories
3rd
below
floor,
that.
I
Right.
didn't realize that looked like that when I built it.
Gotcha, thank you.
We are open questions for him, so.
Are the windows on the 2nd floor 2/1 pane as well?
Say that again?
Are the windows on the 2nd floor?
Yeah, they're the same as the ones on the 3rd floor,
Yeah.
but they'll be replaced that's another project next year, I gotta get the building sprinkled and go from
Okay.
there. But
Yeah,
yeah, they're
they-
the same as the window, all the windows are gonna look exactly the same as they do, they're just gonna be new.
Okay, it's just not clear from the picture that they're 2/1.
I don't know what you mean when you say
The
2/1.
2 panes, so if you look at the picture.
Oh, yeah,
two panes.
they're exactly the same, except they're double hung instead of, those are really old, they're just crap windows, so they're just gonna be replaced with modern style, more efficient windows.
With the same appearance.
So I
But they
think,
have the same, they look the same.
yeah, so Matthew's asking, like, you know how it has like the 2 little windows up top and then the 1 big one on the bottom?
Oh,
That's
you know
what he's
what?
asking.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's the windows that I sent, the guy gave you, the specs of the windows are exactly the windows that we're putting in.
Yeah, the Matthews.
I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm asking is what the existing.
Yeah, that's what she
window-
drew, that's what she drew in her picture. The lady at Viking Lumber, who I've driven insane, did this, so those are the windows.
So what I'm asking is, what is here now? Are they 2 panes over 1 pane? I can't see from
Oh,
here.
I don't know, I don't remember off the top of my head, let me look, see if I can tell you that.
It looks like 1/1.
No, those are 1970 windows, there's 3 little squares and the bottom swings out, and the top
Okay.
swings out. So they don't look like anything like those windows, I'm sorry, I didn't realize where you were going.
So you plan in the future to have matching windows to these 2/1s? that
Yeah,
you're proposing in
next,
this
well, the
project?
next project, you can only, they have a mixed-use building, which is a building on the first floor, so you can only have one apartment with 1 unit unless the building is sprinkled. So I'm gonna get this 4-bedroom apartment rolling and get some income from that, and then go show the bank that I have the income from that, and then get the building sprinkled, and then we can have 8 apartments in that building. But the way the code is, I can't do that without, has to be a step-by-step process, you know? Because the bank account is small.
Yeah.
And basically, all the changes that are before us today are to meet fire code.
That's
So
right.
the windows will allow
Yep, that's right.
egress onto the platform for the
Right,
escape,
that's
and the
right.
side windows, the same sort of
Exactly.
situation.
Yep.
And just so, when I hear fire escape, I think a structure with a ladder.
Yeah,
This is actually
now
a
they let you do those
platform.
platform, they call them
Right.
perches, as long as the arm from the guy explained, as long as the ladder can reach it from the
Yeah.
top of the truck, they can do it that way.
Yep.
Thankfully, because
Probably
it would
better
have
than
been
height of the building.
a lot more money to do it the other way.
Yeah.
So Mark, I have another question for you.
Yes.
So you're replacing these 4 windows here?
That's
Are
the
you
top
pres-
ones, right.
Yes. Are you preserving the granite? that
Yes,
looks like granite?
yeah, the perch is gonna go probably a foot or 2 below that and climb out onto the.
Okay, but
You know,
you're
they're
not
gonna climb-
removing the
We're not
granite?
gonna remove any of that, it's gonna go, we're gonna put a 2x10 under there, into the brick wall, and then attach everything to that, and then hang it with suspension chains from the top to hold the weight. Does that make sense?
Yes. And are there, on the rear of the building, the pictures aren't very
Yeah, the real
clear.
building looks horrible.
Well, it's just from far away, as you can see.
Yeah, well, there's nothing, you can't tell, but all those are broken, there's
Yeah.
covered in plywood and
Is there,
whatever.
are the granite,
Are those there? I don't know if they're there like the front, I assume they are, and if they are, we're not gonna remove anything anyway, we're just gonna put the 2x10
Or
a
cut
couple
them.
feet below the window. Say that again?
or cut them to?
No, we're not gonna do anything to them.
Okay, that's important.
Any additional questions from the commission? Nate? If there's no additional questions from the commission, the public is welcome to ask questions of you, sir.
Before you move forward, I just want to have you make the motion on the completeness
Sure.
and that it's design review, those 3 items under section 3. But change the date to March 13th because it says June 3rd.
Yes. So under procedural background? Okay. So if we believe this application to be complete, we'll need motions on that, separate ones for each one?
No, you can combine it all in one.
So if the commission believes that the procedural background has been met for the application, I would entertain a motion for that. In the affirmative, please, so we can fail or succeed.
I'll make a motion that the procedural background for the property at 16 Union Plaza is complete.
I second.
Okay. So this isn't specifically design review, so we don't necessarily need the 3 affirmatives to vote, this is just a majority, correct?
I think it actually is the same as
Same standard.
certificate of appropriateness.
So 4 affirmative to pass.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, in the interest of your remote, we will start with you, sir.
Yes.
Anne Marie,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Liam,
Yes?
all us vote yes.
Thank you very much.
It's
Oh.
it's a tedious,
done.
it's a tedious bureaucratic process.
That's what they
You saw the tail end of it with the last one. So the application is complete, we're now okay for public comment, or public questions? Would anyone like to ask any questions of the applicant?
Pass it.
Okay. If there is no public questions, we will officially close the public hearing. And now you may have discussion, commissioners, amongst yourselves. You don't have to remain standing for this unless you so
Okay.
choose. We're gonna talk about you, but not
Fair
necessarily
enough,
to
I'll sit over there if you need anything, holler.
you. Questions or concerns about the application?
No, I think he's replacing poor quality windows with something
Yeah.
slightly higher quality, and as long as we're not cutting into the
Granite, yes.
that's there, that's one of the defining characteristics of that building.
Nathaniel, anything you wanna add on?
No.
Okay. If there's nothing you wish to discuss, I will entertain motions proceeding down through part 4. Alright, so we have before us that the project meets the evaluation standards of 71-11 regarding the Bangor Center revitalization area. So the first motion should be about whether we find that based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12, that the application satisfies 71-11A, requiring that materials, techniques, and designs, where practical, conform to and harmonize with the architecture of the building.
Anya, we need a separate motion and vote on all 7?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the property at 16 Union Plaza as meeting statute 71-11A.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second.
Thank you, Nathaniel. We will now vote. Nathaniel, you first, please.
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully.
I make a motion that we approve a design review for 16 Union Plaza that it meets 71-11B.
I second.
Second.
Nathaniel, we will start with you.
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
I will also vote yes. Motion passes
I make a
successfully.
motion that we approve a design review for the property 16 Union Plaza, that it meets the requirements of 71-11C.
Second,
You should, in your motion, note the exhibits, because that's important. You have evidence.
2-4, 2 through 4, and 12.
I accept the friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay, seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Motion passes successfully.
I make a motion that we accept the property at 16 Union Plaza as meeting the requirements of section 71-11E based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12.
I second.
Nathaniel? First vote?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully.
I think I did them out of order. I'm gonna go back up, make a motion that we approve the proposal about 16 Union Plaza, that it meets our requirements for item 71-11C based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12.
I second.
Thank you. Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully.
I'm gonna make a motion for 16 Union Plaza, that it meets our requirements for 71-11F based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12.
I second.
Thank you. Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Thank you, sir.
Exactly.
Most importantly,
I make a motion for 16 Union Plaza, that it meets the requirements of 71-11G based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12.
I second.
Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully.
I will make a motion that the property at 16 Union Plaza satisfies the requirements of 71-11H based on exhibits 2 through 4 and 12.
I second.
Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully. So we have now been through the different criteria, and you all have voted that the proposal meets the required criteria for our design review. So the next piece, as far as I'm doing this correctly, Anya, is the decision as far as that we move to decide that to issue the design, to approve the design review.
I make a motion of design review approval for the property at 16 Union Plaza.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Nathaniel?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Liam?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Motion passes successfully. Any further motions that we need in this space? Okay. That's good, did I interpret that correctly?
So I'm good.
You good now?
Awesome.
But worse for the wear.
And Mr. Ridley, just as a reminder, as you did state earlier, if you do need an extension on that, you will then need to work through the minor revision process with the city, or you'll have to reapply.
Okay, thank you very much. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
All right, so the other items on our agenda, we will start with our other business, which is a proposed Bangor Lights project, request for commission commentary. We will be having a conversation about the proposed installation of a large internally lit lettering spelling out Bangor at the intersection of State and Harlow Street. The proposed location is within the Great Fire of 1911 Historic District, and Krieg is here from the city to present on this. I'm sure that there'll be lots of commentary, so let's let her get through her presentation without interruption, please, and then we'll proceed as formally as we can.
All right,
Anne?
thank you. For the record, I'm Ann Krieg. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development here at the city. I'm here to get comments from the Historic Preservation Commission on a proposed project that was started a while ago. It started like 2019, 2020 by the previous downtown, who's now Betsy Lundy, who's now the downtown Bangor Partnership Director, but at the time she was working for the city, and was working on a project to have public art in the intersection of State, Harlow, Exchange, on the grass area there, to have the letters Bangor spelled out, lighted. We had shelved the project because COVID hit and our priorities at a staff level shifted dramatically, and so we shelved it, and then due to staffing needs and capacity, we shelved it for a little while longer. And recently, we kind of brought it back up because we did have a donor for a small portion of the project from High Tide Capital, contact us and said, hey, what happened with this project? And so we said, yeah, let's, bring this back and see if the city still wants to do this. And so we brought it back to the Business and Economic Development Committee initially, and they had received a lot of comments with concerns, and most of the concerns seemed to stem on historic preservation. So I said, well, let me take this to the Historic Preservation Commission. You do not review any regulations, you don't review this formally, but I wanted to, give you the chance to be, to weigh in with any comments or questions, concerns that you may have. The Culture Commission has recommended it. Public art is under their purview. They have made that recommendation. So I'm here really to listen to you with your concerns, and they'll all be forwarded to council. What I'll do is I'll probably bring this back to Business and Economic Development Committee just to let them know these are the comments that we received. This is what, the Cultural Commission said. This is what the Historic Preservation Commission said, and all of the written comments that we've received from folks. Some of those have been sent to you as well, so you should have a decent packet.
And for the commission, we are not making a motion or voting on this in any formal manner today. This is your opportunity to provide commentary and from your perspective as members of the Historical Preservation Commission. And with that, I can do this formally if you'd like. Peter, would you like to start?
Certainly. So I have a few questions. First off, you said this was brought up before. Who has proposed this? Who are the people proposing this project?
Well, initially, like I said, it was proposed in our department by department staff. And again, we, due to a whole bunch of circumstances with staffing and COVID, we just had shelved the project, so.
So it was an internal proposal?
It was an internal proposal, but it was something that was worked on with Dash Davidson of High Tide Capital, who's done some historic preservation projects in that area, and this is something that he was supporting.
So in your memorandum of 2.6, you state that since it is public art, it is not subject to the commission's formal review.
Correct.
So my question is, who determines that it's art?
Yeah.
Big question.
The Cultural Commission.
But, is that the answer?
Yeah,
Who-
I mean.
Who decided that this was
Yeah.
art and not a sign, is the question I have.
Well, I mean, in other cities that have done this, you know, St. Paul, you know, and I talked to St. Paul, and I know, we also, a few years ago, I talked to other cities that have this. They also treat it as, you know, a public art piece, because it's just, it's it's sort of the, it's not a traditional welcome to Bangor sign, it's just using the letters as art form.
But I have the question because clearly this is the pivotal point as to whether this commission has a purview in this historic district of approving this permanent structure or not. And so my issue would be, who has decided that this is art? What was the process and what is the criteria to determine that? That then it is no longer under the purview of our commission.
We internally had determined that it was public art because of the use of, you know, the whole purpose of it isn't just that a welcome to Bangor sign, like a lot of people are calling it. It's really the letters of Bangor as the art form itself and the lights on it.
So what was the process done to determine it was art? What is the criteria used? It is important from my perspective,
Yeah.
because if we look to the future,
Right.
we have a situation in which a permanent structure is being proposed in the historic district, which by the statute, we have the purview to approve or disapprove in our process. And so as we look to the future for this and any other application, if there is a way for someone to designate a structure as art that would then no longer have to come under our purview, it's important to know what is the process and the criteria for doing that.
Well, the definition of a sign in the code is to convey a message of, you know, of a business or a service. So, and this does neither.
Yeah, I would just like to read the definition of public art in the code as well.
Thank you,
And
Anya.
it says that it's installed to be visible from a public space and which does not contain characteristics of advertising or identify or draw attention to a particular business, product, or service. And also reading over construction of new buildings and structures in historic districts, and the standards in general that you all use to evaluate certificates of appropriateness. They generally refer to buildings or structures. So that's,
Could you repeat that, Anya?
which part?
The advertising part?
Do you mind reading that, Brian?
Public art, art that is installed to be visible from a public space and which does not contain characteristics of advertising or identifying or draw attention to a particular business, product, or service.
So the criteria, to answer your question, Peter, as I understand the response from the code, the criteria is because this was not advertising a business or service, it does not count as a sign.
However, that said, the first word was art. And so my question is, that has to be defined as art before the stipulations that follow it
Right.
are applied. And so the question is, how is that term art defined?
I think the pivotal statement in there is that it's about advertising a business or service.
I disagree,
Yeah,
because it states art. It says art is this, and then that is, as long as it doesn't do these things.
Can I ask who actually, so you know the Hopeful sign, there's a specific artist behind that whole mission for the Hopeful sign. Who's the artist that will be installing this particular, or who came up with the idea of the structure? Who's the artist behind it?
It was done at a staff level.
Okay.
It's sort of like what we've seen in many other cities around the country, and Toronto. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cities that have done this art piece in their downtown. Sort of, it really stemmed from sort of the Love in Philadelphia, you know, that as an art piece, that word, and then a lot of cities, you know, thereafter started.
That's
Yeah.
that's an actual artist who created the Loves.
Correct.
Yeah. And do those cities have an independent historic preservation commission?
Right. I don't know.
I believe Philadelphia does.
Yeah, and St. Paul does,
My
yeah.
argument is an actual
And I have a
artist
follow-up
created
about the
the
issue,
work,
I'm sorry.
you know?
A follow-up about the issue of sign. What I just heard was that it's not a sign unless it's advertising, et cetera. So does that mean that the Bangor limit signs that say Bangor are not signs because they don't follow those other definitions? I mean, this to me is to be constructed by a sign company. That's what the company does that does this. This is a permanent structure that is affixed to a foundation piece. And as such, it is definitely a sign. Whether it's also art or not may be another question, at least in my view of this. And I go back to my original question. What is the definition of art? Because if we have an individual or city or other people come to us again with another proposal and say, well, this is art, it doesn't have to go through you. We need to have some way of determining that and some authority that will back up the criteria for that definition. I would opt that architecture, which I see in art books, is also art. Yet these architectural structures that we pass judgment on are not being considered art. And the question will be, well, why not? If this can be considered art, certainly the creative process of architecture and design could also be considered art, and possibly with a little more credential to it. And so this is a very important process from my perspective in the sense of our purpose for being the Historic Commission is then to determine appropriateness, and if we have an exception that's provided, but how can we know what the exception is on any individual case unless there's a definition and criteria that is applied rigorously? We are asked to provide our rigorous, and somewhat lengthy process here for each aspect of what our code is telling us we have to do, as we just did with this past thing. This is a seminal issue, and to me, it needs to have a clear definition and criteria that's accepted. So that's comment and discussion from that perspective.
By all means.
If absolutely anything can be called art, what's the merit in something achieving that label?
Well, I mean, in terms of the building and architecture argument, I mean, that is clearly outlined, that is in your purview by the Secretary of the Interior standards that you use to review them, the list of things that have to come before you, that is clear. So I don't think you can equate those two.
Well, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
I'm just citing the fact that if you can call that art, then you can call anything art. Absolutely anything. That is so far away from any concept of art I have ever heard of or understood. It doesn't even come close. And the other problem with it is, once that's called art and it gets installed in the historic district, that becomes part of the historic district. And then it's an awful job to get rid of it if somebody decides to. I mean, we saw that with architecture on Broadway. And it had, the argument was, it had to be kept because it had been put there. I mean, so it's very dangerous to put something like that in there, in my opinion, and call it art before you define what art is and what is or isn't fitting the definition. So, needless to say, I am absolutely and positively against putting that green neon sign in that precious historic district that almost defines the city we live in. I mean, our city was almost wiped out by the Great Fire, and that's where the Great Fire took place. It is the worst possible place to put that sign. It's sacred ground, as far as I'm concerned. And so, but if that can be called art, I would say anything can be called art. And is that good to have an object that you can't even really you know, give a definition for in terms of whether it's art or not.
Peter?
A quick question. You mentioned providing us with input that came to, I guess you had provided us with this forwarded from Dash Davidson that was to the counselors. This is the only piece of communication like this that I have received. Were there others that came to the city council, letters, emails, or otherwise?
I know you had sent one to city council, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I guess my point is, you supplied this one to us.
Yeah, why not?
Are there not others?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There is one that was in
we-
favor, but are there any that are not in favor that we have not received?
Yeah,
Forwarded you comments that were sent directly to the commission.
Yes.
We weren't in receipt of comments that were sent to the council, but we did receive ones that were sent to you, and we forwarded them to you in the last packet.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but my comment is this was forwarded to us by you for inclusion. And this is something that was sent to the city councilors. So you passed that, we didn't see stuff that was sent to the city councilors, you didn't provide that for us, right?
well, we sent the ones that you
For the
had
historical
received
board, but not the
directly,
council.
right? Yeah,
Right, I'm just making a comment, this was specifically sent to the councilors and you forwarded it to us.
because I was copied on it.
And I appreciate
Yeah.
that. So my question
I'm not
is, I would
confident.
presume then that there may be others. If this is important for us to see,
If there were others, we didn't receive them, so we couldn't have forwarded them, so,
okay,
yep.
all right.
So I understand that there are over 100 letters that were written to the council.
Yeah, I mean, if the city doesn't want to do this, it's okay. We're just, it was one of those projects that, was worked on a long time ago, and, the person who, Dash Davidson, who contacted us and said, hey, will you bring this back to see if we can do this, because they want to see it, that, they have done significant projects on Exchange and Hammond, right in the area of this project, so they had asked us to bring it back, so, yeah.
And I appreciate the work that they've done, that doesn't enfranchise us to.
No, it
to
shouldn't,
do a
just,
project
but
for
just to
it.
understand that that's somebody that wants to see it.
By the way, I understand that of the over 100 letters the council has received, not one of them has been in favor of this project.
That's fine,
Yep,
yeah.
not one.
Rebecca?
Okay, so a couple things. So the sign being art, I think that's a valid point, and I was a little bit heated that we didn't have it before us to vote for, because it is in a historical district. And like I had asked Edmund the last meeting, do we only vote on structures, or are there other things that we're supposed to, as a council, as a committee, vote on? And I think that Peter made a very valid point, who's deciding? And I think that's where we're lost in the fray a little bit, is that things were decided that might not be solid, in terms of.
But signs don't come to you either.
They do if they're being attached to
They
the
do,
building.
yeah.
Right.
And the thing
And
about
they're
that, my
advertising.
Which
issue
is-
with that
this
is, how does this look to businesses who have come to us that want signs on their structures that are neon, and we say, no, you can't do that. But we as a city, we're gonna do it. So to me, as a business owner, a past business owner, comes off super icky to think that the city's gonna be like, you can't do it, but we're gonna. So I'm not a fan of it in terms of that, because businesses put a lot of effort in. So to think that that's like advertising, but we're not advertising as a city with our names strapped across the lawn. So that bothers me on that level. And then, of course, the art element, we do, I think in the future, we do have to have a little bit of like care about who gets to call something art and then present it as such to whichever committee they want to. Such as the other cities, Robert Indiana is a very famous artist, and that the love thing makes total sense because he's an established artist. There's no arguing with whether or not he's an artist, and the hopeful sign, there's no arguing that he had a mission, and it was clear, and it was brought before us, and we saw, his artist statement. So like those things are very important. If you're gonna call this art, where's the statement? You know, where's the process that got them to this point
Where's the
of
artist?
calling it, where's the artist?
We
Exactly.
voted on the Umbrella Sky project.
We sure did, because it's art.
Add to a building.
It's not just a random, I wanna do it, and I'm just gonna put it this way so that we can get it into this area to vote on it. I just think it really bothered me that we wouldn't have a vote just because of where it's located too. So,
And building on both of your points, I think that to treat this thing as public art rather than either as a sign or as a new construction, which it's very clearly
Right.
closer to,
Yes.
is disenfranchising the commission and taking away our consent on this issue.
and putting hatred on something that we don't want hatred on.
I love public art.
I love public, I am an artist, so of course I want to defend art, and having it in my city, I very much supported the murals, I love them.
Yeah.
I have another question that's a practical one. Has this proposal been brought to the, I don't know who it would be, Department of Transportation or otherwise? And the reason I ask that question is that this is the diagram we have of where this is to be. This intersection here of State Street coming down the hill and coming into Harlow Street is a difficult intersection. And we have Park Street coming down right here, which has traffic that comes in directly in here. To me, putting this here with a flashing light is an obstructive process between the sight line here of turning right onto Harlow and what's coming down Park Street.
Not to mention Google routes people to go down the one way.
So my question is, that's not obviously the purview of the Historic Commission, but in looking at this as a concerned citizen and someone that's gonna be driving down here, is this something, does it being called art keep it from being looked at by the appropriate, folks for traffic, et cetera, in terms of whether this is in some way hazardous?
Well, we have an engineering division that, will take a look at it, yeah.
Have
But
they?
it wouldn't be subject to Maine DOT's review.
Have they?
It's not in their purview.
Okay, but it would be under the purview of the Bangor Engineering Group?
Sure.
In terms of whether it had a traffic and
Yeah.
public safety issue? Has it been brought before them?
Well, we reviewed the location with them because we were concerned with, glare, and so that is why we located it where it was, is to reduce that.
So, building off Peter's point, this is one of the places I wanted to go, is Bangor has a high incident rate of pedestrian accidents. One of our citizens last month was killed as a pedestrian in town, which is horrible. And this, in watching that Economic Development Commission's meeting, is to generate foot traffic and have people take photographs with a sign. This seems like a particularly dangerous area to do so. To have foot traffic, there's no parking. So if the city is married to the idea of putting a sign that says Bangor up, which I dislike immensely, maybe put it in an area that already has more foot traffic, like over by the amphitheater.
And not a historic district.
And in not a historic district, because if it's to generate social media likes, like
Right.
one of our members of the council said were invaluable, which I think is another discussion completely. You have a much larger amount of foot traffic over there, and the roads are blocked off, so it's not a pedestrian hazard.
Okay.
Were other locations considered?
No, again, this was something that staff had worked on with High Tide Capital for that particular location, but that doesn't mean that we, could look at other locations or not do it at all. I mean, we're here to get comments. That's what we're here for.
We do have a question or a comment from Nate, so.
Nate, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. So looking at this being a historic district, was there any consideration given to any of the indirect effects that putting a public art piece would have on the surrounding built environment? So I'm asking that just for everyone's kind of clarification, like under section 106, when you are having something constructed or you're doing any sort of review, you have to look at indirect effects as well as direct effects, and that includes the landscape. And area such as a historic district where you have a built environment. This is surrounded by historic structures. We already have an art piece there. You can see in the background the Queen Bee or whatever it is. Was there some consideration given to that? Because this to me looks like it would be this pretty indirect effect on the landscape within the historic district. And then also, is there going to be any ground disturbance related to installing this sign? Do you need to do any, is there going to be any small trenches for power running to it? Do you have to cut into the ground surface for, leveling it out to put in to fix the cement bottom or whatever it is? Do you know?
Yeah, when we worked with engineering, that, again, one of the other reasons why that location on that island was chosen was the convenience to power. So, and in terms of the effect on other buildings, it's across the street, because on that side there, it's just, there's parking, a parking lot, and another mural up on the hill there. So, the effect would be the building across the street that's in the district.
Well, it's more not the direct effect to the buildings within the district, but the view shed and viewscape from from the other buildings in town. I don't know if that's coming across since I'm coming on over Zoom.
No, that's fine.
But like, if you just think, if you're in any of the surrounding buildings, you look out the window, you're going to see the sign. It's a change to the landscape from what you're seeing. That's kind of where I'm coming with this. I think someone made that suggestion about it being in a different location that was outside the historic district, the amphitheater, I think it was. I mean, moving it to a different location, if this is something where somebody just is absolutely, hey, we've got to have this sign in case somebody forgets we're in Bangor. I think that might be good. Moving it somewhere where there's more foot traffic, maybe less incidents of injury and all that. But as far as placing this, as a public art piece within a historic district, I just don't think it's the best idea. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think Nathaniel's making a really important point that this, if you're standing on Exchange Street, this sign is going to be in the direct view line of City Hall and is detracting from it. There's also no other marquee style signs.
Well, but no, there's not.
Exactly.
They're not allowed.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
this is aberrant and is not suitable to any of the other existing structures or art that's downtown.
And that goes back to my original point, which is that this sign would not be accepted from all the reasons that we review things in the Historic Commission in this area, except that it's called art.
Yeah.
And again, where's the criteria that says it has that exception and it has the privilege of that exception?
Out of curiosity, not to be devil's advocate, but if Dash wanted to put Bangor on top of one of his structures he owns, is that different?
Or maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it would be treated as art. I mean, because it's not advertising a business that's in the building or a service that's being provided in the building.
Directly in the
or
line of
products
traffic.
in the building.
It amazes me that it is just those few items, that if it isn't those things, it's art.
Yeah, me
I know.
too, that's, I
What
was
if-
just going to say that.
So, playing the devil's advocate, what if I owned a building downtown and I wanted to paint something vulgar on the side of it? And I consider that art, is that allowable? That would transform downtown Bangor,
And it's a structure you own.
and it's a structure I own.
Exactly.
Or if I have a vacant lot, could I erect something vulgar? It seems like we can if I call it art, and that's a huge problem. And I think that that's why,
I mean, I'm glad it's coming up now.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you, but I just want to point out, it would have to be approved by somebody, and I doubt something like that would be approved by council, but I just want to
Well,
point that out.
however,
it could be.
if we have no criteria for calling something art other than it's not a couple of things,
Right.
then what leg would any of the regulatory bodies have to stand on if that's an acceptable definition of art? And if being art exempts it from everything.
The other
Yeah.
thing I heard was, I think it was at the last meeting, somebody asked why the Historic Preservation Commission wasn't going to be asked to decide on this, or to make a, a recommendation. And the answer that I heard was, well, we didn't have any right to make decisions about things that are going on the ground, only things that are buildings that are, and that I utterly reject, because a historic preservation district is a historic district. It doesn't matter whether it's on the ground, in the grass, in the tree, it is an historic district. You cannot exclude the ground.
I think the only way it got around it is because it's called public art.
Correct.
And I think that's an effort to disenfranchise the
Exactly.
commission.
I agree, I would have to agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
sure when public art was either in or out of the, the regulation that of what's in your purview, but I've always seen it as that public art wasn't in your
Is there a
purview.
statute that states that?
I mean,
How could it not?
but I think that it gets muddled, though. I think we see something that could potentially get really bad, right? Because like, that's fine that the committee wants to do public art, the cultural commission or whatever, if they want to do that, that's cool. However, if anyone can come and say, this is public art,
Yeah.
all of a
That's the
sudden,
problem.
all of our say, and I'm so glad that you guys came to us and asked us questions, holy cow. Because like, otherwise we get completely alienated away from something that we should definitely be having a say in.
And I think that the cultural commission should have a say for public art, but if it's in a historic district or on a historic structure,
We should be married together.
we have to both vote on this. There's no question in my mind whatsoever. Have you, in the process of determining this was public art, did you seek an opinion from the city's legal department?
Originally, I'm not sure. Yeah.
That's probably something we should do.
Yeah.
We heard testimony or comments from other people at our last meeting, and many of you, I think, are maybe here today. Thank you for coming. One of the things that was brought up was the concern of spending money of this sort when we have so many financially disadvantaged people and struggling in our community. This is a construction that has significant cost, and there will be maintenance as well of some sort. I guess my question is, has there been a look to see what other things this money could be used for that would be much more appropriate in helping to support our community and our folks in the community that are struggling financially?
Again, I'll relay that comment to, this was a project
I
that we
understand.
started and, yeah, we're just here to get
Our comments
comments.
aren't personal, Ann, at all.
Yeah, no, I know,
No.
yeah, I'm not taking it personal.
Good.
And, we have some very large structural problems downtown. We have, potholes that make it difficult to drive. We have streets that don't have sidewalks with pedestrian problems. We have historic buildings that are falling to shambles that, this money can be put into a fund to help those building owners who have buildings that are falling apart they can't take care of. I just think that the payback on those things will be a lot higher than some social media likes for a sign. I would hate for another pedestrian to get hit, it would just be horrible.
Additional commentary from the commission? Dean's been very quiet.
Yes. There are two designs in the proposal, and is there,
No, these were the two options that originally were looked at and, there's no staff recommendation on either one. We were gonna be working with, the city council on which one they had preferred, if they wanted to pursue this or not.
and is there a distinction between them in terms of the brightness?
The one that is not, that's backlit is definitely less lumens coming off of that than the one that's the marquee lighting.
Can I back up just a second, Ann? Peter brought up a point, and that's one that I've been meaning to make, is that this sign will have cost over time in terms of electricity to operate it and maintenance. Has a study been done on what the future costs of maintaining and electrifying this sign will be? Because that will be significant with its location. I imagine this will be vandalized. And then in the case it is vandalized and horribly damaged, will the commission need to vote to remove it? Or is it historic then because it has been in the district?
Yeah.
This could turn into a real eyesore
Well, again,
really fast.
public art wouldn't have to come back to you to be removed
Yeah, I
because
guess.
it's a public art piece.
Yeah, but I'm rejecting the idea that this is in fact public art
Absolutely.
unequivocally.
Nathaniel, anything else from you?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about, because this is the National Register District, and I'm just wondering about adding, public art to a National Register District. While y'all have been talking, I've been trying to scroll through the CFR on National Register, Title 36, just trying to figure out if there's anything in there about it. But I get the city's intent behind it, and I mean it's not the worst intent. The location I just think is a poor choice. Adding something like this to a historic district, not giving any consideration to the indirect effects to the built environment. It just seems like just a poor choice of location for me. That's all.
Okay. Go ahead, Peter.
I don't have a further question, I guess, other than in terms of our process and protocol here. You've asked for comment, we've asked a lot of questions, maybe inferred a lot of comment by our questions, certainly. But do we need to, or can we provide a specific statement of our opinion and input if we are not going to be allowed to vote on this? What is the format for us to provide our comments directly now that we've had a lot of our questions answered?
We were gonna forward everything that we've heard today to city council. So, I mean, seems to be general agreement that you're not in favor of this, so.
Well, I know if we want to, if we need to
List of
explicitly
things.
state that, or vote as a group in terms of a positive response or a negative response,
I think Ian's
elucidating
writing, I mean, I've seen you writing,
Yeah.
writing everything
Everything
down.
down.
So I
I'm just
mean,
asking
she's
protocol.
definitely, and I mean, I think my biggest thing is it's a slap in the face to businesses because we won't let them put neon signs up.
Yeah, and it's a slap in the face.
That's a big one for me.
It's a slap in the face to the HPC as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And art.
And I guess,
And
just
art
so it's
particularly, yeah.
officially on the record, I wholly reject this sign being placed in a historic district. And I hope that you copy us on your notes to the city council, because I'd like to read them.
Can we move without it being on the agenda?
We're not
We don't
specifically
really-
tasked with voting to approve or not. If you wish to have a statement from the commission, as far as like, unless it's an official body, that wasn't something that was requested of us. If someone wishes to draft one, I would be happy to, I guess, have that on a future agenda, for like our next meeting to like approve
I
that.
will volunteer.
Okay.
That, or, and ask for assistance from everyone else. One other comment
I mean, I
is
don't know that
that,
it's necessary, but
Yeah, if
Is
you
there
really
any
wanna
reason
vote
not
on
to do it?
something, we
Yeah.
can draft a statement for you and you can vote on at the next meeting.
okay. I mean, your questions and comments are part of the record for this meeting
appreciate
and
that.
part of Ann's.
I appreciate that. So one comment, I just want to back up and what Nate has been saying as well, taking away the discussion of the ability or authority of this commission. Nate has been speaking to the actual issues that we discuss when we look at something to be brought into or built or changed in the historic district. And I wanted to highlight those because I really think those are extremely important. That in terms of those specific things, his comment about the indirects and understanding what he's saying, is that there's a significant impact of the indirect effects of this being out of character with that location in the historic district. And that's one of the underlying things that we look at, and we look at anything new, structures otherwise, as to how they are appropriate with and integrate with what is already there in the historic structures that are there. And so these are the sorts of things that I appreciate Nate bringing up. We have process questions, but those are the actual content issues that we as a commission, if we had the authority to vote on this, which I still think we should, because that's my opinion. But if we had, those are the things that we would be discussing. And those things then, if we had the authority, would be bringing us to a probable vote that may not be in the affirmative.
It could be unanimous.
It was very carefully phrased, Peter.
I'm trying to be good.
Moving forward,
I
I
appreciate
would like
that.
to vote. I mean, how do we even change that? Like, I think that we should have a say, anything that's in the historical district, we need to.
Then you would
I
need
think we
a
do.
change made to your code. I would offer this just for the commission under our evaluation standards. The first section A is, in general, a building or structure classified as an historic landmark or a building or structure located in a historic district or any part thereof or any appurtenance related to such structures, including but not limited to walls, fences, light fixtures,
Wow.
steps, paving and signs shall not be altered, constructed, moved, or demolished, and no certificate of appropriateness shall be issued for such actions, unless it will preserve or enhance its historical and architectural character. Our role and I believe our code is primarily focused on preservation. Whereas, if I may, since Liam and I both previously came from the Cultural Commission, the Cultural Commission's role is not so much focused on preservation, so art in that respect is not, we're not getting into the definition of art right now, Anne Marie. But art falls under their purview because they're not about preserving it. We are charged with keeping stuff intact so that it is there for future generations.
And keeping new things from detracting from and preserving that heritage.
Not disagreeing with it, giving the verbiage that is in our code.
Including the vacancy of a particular area.
Maybe we should, we have plenty of people here that I think might want to speak.
I think they might. So if the commission has finished their commentary, for public comment, I guess we will open the floor. Please don't stampede all at once. I will attempt to be fair. By all means, please approach the podium, state your name and the residence required on your.
No. My name is Anna Maria Baeza. I'm a resident of Bangor, and I would like to speak in opposition to the proposed Bangor sign. Bangor is a gem of a small city. Moving from New York, I was instantly taken by the beauty of the buildings, paired with the walkability of the city filled with gorgeous historical homes right in the middle of a forested land. This sign, besides being uninspired and mundane, has nothing to do with the culture or the history of Bangor and would create a distraction for drivers in this very confusing and busy corner of downtown. I think the money could be better spent in maintaining our infrastructure and preserving our downtown into the future. If an art project is something the council would like to look at, why not partner with the Zillman Art Museum, which is basically across the street from where this proposed thing is proposed, and find a real artist to create an installation to add to the beauty of our city somewhere. Alternatively, that particular spot might be a wonderful place for a pollinator garden to create a living extension of the bee mural on the wall that one sees behind it and preserve the little tree that's already there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, approach the podium, state your name.
My name is Frank Sella, I live in Bangor. Originally planned on saying something similar to what she did, but you brought up a good point. Historical buildings are art, so I remember being younger, like the only art I was really interested in was architecture. So I think that in this case, art in the historical district, you guys are in charge of making sure the buildings still retain their artistic value, that you are the only commission that should be in charge of art in that district. So, I mean, if you wanna call art by committee art, then you guys should be in charge of that. That's just my thought. Like, that was a good point you brought up about the architects. I lived in Philadelphia for a while, and everyone knows the love sign. They go out of their way to look at it. But this, I think, is just going to, it belongs either in front of the casino or the airport. It's not really anything useful. I think, takes away from what downtown Bangor actually is about. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Mike Burrow, I live in Bangor. I also am opposed against this sign. In the historic district, it's exactly what it is. It's a historic district. Anytime you add a structure that's concreted in with electric, I mean, you got a structure, you can call it whatever you want, but it's all about wording, okay? I definitely agree with what you said, Mr. Giebler. It's gonna be an eyesore. It's gonna need electrical power, and, you know, the cost of electricity is gonna go up. I'm sure it'll be minimal, but anyway, you got a cost. People could deface the thing to destroy it. Some of the letters could go out if they're lit, so now you get different word spellings, you know what I mean? If you're coming down the street, you're not gonna see Bangor, you're gonna see the end of it. So it's just gonna be an eyesore on a beautiful downtown historic district. And I believe you guys should, whatever you gotta do, make sure your vote is weighted against all the other things, because of the historic district. We have to preserve the historic district. The other issue I have, and I talked about it before, is traffic. I mean, downtown, everybody's jockeying left and right, and then when you make the turn, I mean, you're jockeying left or right, you're going, you know, whether you want to loop around. So if something is there and you see it, it could just distract you, and all it takes is a couple seconds. All of a sudden, you plow into somebody that's coming down the hill that wants to get in the left lane, you want to get in the right lane. So it's a traffic nightmare down there. It's an absolute traffic nightmare. And, you know, I drive down there quite often, and you really have to go slow and be very careful. So it's just gonna be one of those visual obstructions that could, like I said, to take your eyes off the road for 1 or 2 seconds, now you got an accident. And like I said, the pedestrian was killed. I mean, there could be more. I mean, I just think it's one of those things that if it's ever approved and installed, that it's gonna become such an issue that it's gonna have to be removed through vandalism, cost, and whatever. But historic preservation is the way to go, and I hope people listen, and I know there's not too many people that are for it, so there's more against it, so that shouldn't weigh into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzette Furrow, I'm a resident of Bangor. I agree with all the other statements that were made, that it's a dangerous intersection, and 68% of the people in the Bangor Daily News survey didn't agree with the letters being placed there. One thing I have a concern about is I have watched a lot of the Cultural Commission meetings, and I haven't watched like way back, but it seems like they often approve pretty much every artwork as long as there's some kind of, you know, grant money for the artwork. And I think it's starting to get a little bit out of control in the downtown area with the, I know now they're gonna put panels on the bathrooms, wooden panels with artwork around the bathrooms. And I just think that you all, the Historical Preservation Commission, should have more of a say when it comes to this artwork, since it seems to be expanding. And I mean, I got most artistic in my high school class, but I know there's a lot of hidden meaning a lot of times in art. And I actually see some hidden meanings in some of the art that's hanging up downtown that's kind of, you know, very negative. And so I think that
the cultural commission needs to take that more into consideration, and maybe you all definitely should have more of a say in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Wayne Maller, and I'm a resident of the city of Bangor. And I want to be very emphatic that I am here representing myself and no one else. Actually, well, I may speak for my wife sometimes, but she doesn't always allow me to. So I'm here to state that having sat on the board in the past, I find it difficult to understand why you're not allowed to make a decision on this sign. I'm very much opposed to it. I think it has nothing to do with the downtown. If you talk about advertising, basically that's what they're doing, is advertising downtown. And, you know, I'm just confused as to why we spend so much time, not time that is spent by people outside the city, but so much staff time on something like this when we have so many more serious issues to take care of. So I'll be brief because there are plenty of other people that want to say, but I support the group or the Historic Preservation Commission and think you're doing a great job and hope they will listen to you and your recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
I'm getting older. My name is Joe Pickering. And first, I want to commend our staff for earning their pay tonight. And secondly, I probably had more to say, which is to your benefit, but you've already said it. I think that I'm totally opposed to the idea of a sign and a bright sign and, you know, et cetera. I think we know that Bangor is Bangor. And it really is unnecessary. It's also unnecessary historically, because if it's near the place where all of that terrible fire happened, isn't that really disrespectful? I mean, it's really disrespectful. You know, what you ought to have, what we ought to consider having, is some sort of a marker or something, you know, that commemorates that, whether it's through art or whatever, but something like that. And, you know what, this is kind of funny, but I'll just take a minute. Pickering Square. No, I didn't build it. It's actually, the man was a George Washington Pickering. And he was a mayor, a very prominent mayor of Bangor, a very prominent citizen, and they named Pickering Square after him. Oh, guess what? Who would know that? You know, couldn't you have a marker or something? Now, the other thing is this, what I was honestly saddened, I was sad, not saddened, but I was sad to watch you folks struggle about 6 months ago on the on the Broadway property. And in terms of you had to follow the strict rules and regulations, et cetera, and I understand that. Except, could you please start questioning? Could you please start questioning and asking the city to, could you just give us a little more breathing space? You know, the term vitality, revitalization, that's an interesting word. Does that mean that anything could be put into more dense areas of Bangor, including the historic districts? Well, it says in the planning committee, in the 24-25 planning goals, there's the word of well-being. Well, we also should consider well-being, because from my perspective, what I've seen in Bangor is we've got 35 square miles, but there's such a concentration of building in more dense areas, including the historic district. But anyway, I don't like this idea. I think that this staff have put a lot of time into it. They ought to be commended. And I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I hope it is killed. The other thing is, in terms of spending money where it should be, I totally agree with that. And the other thing is, I just want to leave with this. I want to commend the city of Bangor for being the only city in the entire state to write a letter in support of a waiver to bring a waiver, what's called a waiver for mental illness. And what that does is, if it had passed, and last session it was defeated, quite frankly, in my opinion, by Governor Mills at the last moment. And what happened, what it does is, it would bring federal dollars into places like the state hospitals. Right now, since 1965, the state only pays funding for psychiatric services through state dollars. Absolutely idiotic. So I wanted to leave that, and also, for example, Acadia doesn't get any federal dollars through the IMD exclusion law, and it's really a disgrace. And there's other, and even more importantly, community services through progressive treatment teams could also be realized. But I'd like to just say thank you, Bangor, for doing that, and I hope they're going to do it this session too, because Senator Baldacci and Senator Richard Bennett has done it. But anyway, thank you. God bless you all. And start thinking about loosening up. And I think you're being tightened up. That's not good. It's not healthy for Bangor, you guys, or any of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Sonia Maller, and I'm a resident of the city of Bangor. Having sat on this commission before, I know you're in a quandary. I am totally against the sign downtown. I've gone through the rules that you people have to abide by. I've thought and sat about these rules, and I can see I wouldn't want to be in your position, because this is totally an improper place to put this sign in the historic district. The sign is expensive. Everyone would want to put neon signs, as you've stated, on the tops of their buildings, which is not allowed in the historic district. Couldn't they pick another location in the city of Bangor other than the historic district? I think the staff could use their time more productively in getting new businesses into the downtown. There are a lot of empty buildings at this point in time. We need new businesses downtown, as we need businesses in every part of the city in order to bring income into the city. I commend you and I thank you for all the work you are doing, and I don't think the vote should be taken away from you.
Thank you.
There are still a few of you who haven't spoken.
My name is Herb Marsters. I live in Bangor, owner of a building downtown. And just want to thank Mr. Pickering for his comments tonight. I think the board tonight has demonstrated its interest in its ability to ask questions, to deal with the questions of jurisdiction and definition, which are so important to this sort of decision-making. Comments about damage and vandalizing is something that's very close to my heart. If any of you have been down in the back of Penobscot Plaza, under the Penobscot Bridge, and see the vandalism that's been both to the building and to the structures around. We recently have installed new siding around the whole building. Everybody wanted that for the purpose of making it more fuel efficient. And the one comment that led off our board of directors meeting was, is this going to be a new canvas for those wanting to do what they probably would call public art? I don't know if the Bangor Downtown Development Group has had an opportunity to review this proposal, but I would recommend that it be done. It is that board that most of us pay property taxes in lieu of the downtown development. And we would like to see them involved and maybe help with some of the definitions and discussions that need to be done. I have questions about the location. I have questions about the budget and whether the money for this is in the budget now and where in the budget. And also the question of what is the rationale for allowing this sort of, I will call it a sign, or this sort of public art when it's not allowed by businesses. And I assume that was for appropriateness of some sort. So thank you for your discussion tonight. I appreciated all of what you were doing, and hope that you will have an opportunity to make a comment and pass that along to particularly the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Karen Marsters, I live in Bangor. I just want to say thank you for being here. You've given me hope that Bangor can survive on the right footing. Thank you to each one of you, especially Dr. Keebler, Mr. Reitkamp. I liked your trail of thought. But anyway, I just want to say that there are a lot of young people here that would like to talk, but can't because they're home with young families. We see, we're all preserving ourselves very nicely, so we can come, but there are lots of others. I'm sure you'll get some more comments and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hillary Simmons, resident of Bangor. I have a couple things. I was at the last meeting also, and people talked about it being art and an art mural. I don't really believe that this is an art mural, so I appreciate all of your questions and comments. I feel that this is why something like this should have come to you to begin with. And it shouldn't have been done the way it was done by the city, I will say. From a previous conversation, I think Ian Craig said that this started in 2018, 2019, an idea. We are now in 2025. At that point, if it didn't move forward at that point, why didn't we put it to bed there instead of wasting the city's time, money, going over something as far as this? And again, we could be spending the time of the staff and the economic development group to bring in businesses to downtown Bangor. That is probably one of the biggest focuses should be, is bringing in economic development to the city of Bangor. And we seem to be lacking that. Not just the ability to pull them in, but the ability to have staff go and get them. We're more focused on other things like a Bangor sign or walkable communities or things along those natures. And I'm not opposed to walkable communities and that, but I feel like we need to start focusing on economic development. But I do appreciate the historical preservation for all that you do, and I appreciate all of your questions that you asked, and I think it put a better light to some of the citizens of Bangor that maybe had questions and maybe were on the fence, and now I would hope that they would be with you in line and oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you. By my count, I have 2 people in the room who have not spoken.
We also have a few people on Zoom.
And 2 people on Zoom. Well, would either of you like to speak? We'll go to Zoom. Is there anyone present on Zoom who would like to offer public comment for the record?
You can raise your hand if you do what.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Hear me?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't know how to put the video on or whatever, but you can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So anyway, I wrote a letter previously, so I think you know what my concerns are. We own a home from 1892 down on Court Street. We've been downtown since 1987, and we love downtown. We were pioneers here from Boston, and we made a good life for our 3 children, just what we came here for. I'm an artist. I had Maine Jewelry and Art for 12 years, the beautiful store with Maine artisans, the first one in the state to just have Maine artists. And I love art, but this sign, I don't know. And I think honestly, I want to thank you for your time and effort, but this is just a waste of time to even have all these meetings and everything for a neon sign, which just does not fit in the city at all. Maybe up by the casino or the hotels somewhere. But what I would like to see, and I'm going to throw out, is that, you know, I've traveled quite a bit and I've gone to places and they have the museum in the streets and they have these placards and I go around reading them. It's so interesting. We have the Bon-Ton, what that took on. We have the Pickering Square. We have, you know, all these different historic places. And I'm going to offer my services to volunteer again. I was kind of knocked down by somebody a few years ago because they said it cost a lot of money. Well, I'm willing to help out with whatever fundraising, or if somebody knows how we can get something like that down the line, like that square, maybe even like that power box where you want to put that neon sign that could be covered with something about history, or maybe there could be something to make it look a little nicer. But And something about the fire really, really fits in that spot. I would like to keep the beautiful buildings and art. I also was very attracted to the architecture when we came to Bangor, and we really loved that fountain in the center of the city there in the square. We used to sit there with our children, and I don't know why they ever moved that. I know it was to make bigger space in the center there or something, but I just think making the city look nice needs to be an effort. And I don't think a neon sign will make it look nice at all. And I do believe, I was talking with one of the selectmen from Lincoln, because they had that loon, if you remember that big loon they put up, and there was a lot of opposition and so forth, but they put the loon up, and they've had, according to them, they've had all kinds of problems of people climbing up and jumping off and damage and so forth. And I just see this light as just being a mess, quite honestly. And remember, I was just down the street on Harlow Street, 100 Harlow. So I'm very familiar with what goes on in that neighborhood. And that's all. I'll get off for now. So I'll allow if there's anybody else to speak or whatever. But I am definitely against this sign. And I will do, if you need any volunteer help on making some kind of historical thing, and I am an artist, you know, I work for free pretty much, especially when it comes to Bangor. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would any of the other two people on Zoom like to speak? Any of the remaining unspoken people in the room?
My name is Kay Surplus, and I live on Court Street. I'm a neighbor of Roxanne's. And I echo her thoughts. I'm against the sign. And for many of the reasons stated here, a lot of people put in some wonderful questions and some arguments, and I think there's a lot to think about. And I like the idea that we're taking the time to really think the issue through and what the long-range implications could be for Bangor. Because I also, when we moved to Bangor, one of the things we liked, it was a very livable city. And it had lots of beautiful spots and lots of beautiful parks. And so I really think this sign, unless I'm missing something and there's some beautiful writing or script or whatever, how they're gonna make it, I just oppose to it. I also have concerns. I think Anna Maria mentioned the traffic concerns and some other people as well. And if part of the thinking is to make people come downtown and make the city more dense downtown, I have some real concerns about that policy position, because as the city gets more congested, there's more safety concerns. And also, dare I say, that once it gets congested, there might then become a policy proposal to raise the congestion tax, as I think they did in New York City. So once you get everybody down there and it gets very busy, then all of a sudden, oh, let's tax people who are going downtown. Anyway, that's just a thought that crossed my mind. So again, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the time you're taking to examine this issue, because I think it's very important for Bangor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for comments from Zoom or from the room. Okay. Anne?
Okay, so recently, I testified, on two,
Just for the purposes of
Pieces
those of you in the room, sorry.
Yep.
The next item on our agenda is staff testimony on LD 146 and LD 435, which is a historic tax credit. Is this what you're speaking to?
yeah,
Confirm. We knew that, but they don't necessarily have the agenda.
yeah, I was gonna go over, yeah, what they are. So The first was LD 146, and I'll just read the summary so people know what it was about. This bill changes the maximum tax credit allowed for certified historic structure rehabilitation projects for the first 2 years in which a credit may be claimed. It changes the maximum from 5 million in each of the first 2 years to 10 million total across the first 2 years combined. It makes no changes to the 5 million maximum tax credit allowed in subsequent years. This change applies to tax years beginning on or after January 1, 2025. So I had testified, I'd gone to the hearing schedule that the state puts out is really tight. You learn about it like a few days in advance of the hearing in many cases. So we had to act quickly. We went to the Business and Economic Development Committee because they met like literally the day before the hearings on these, and to ask their permission if we could present on behalf of the city, that the city is in favor of this. So we did do that, and so we were able to give a positive testimony on that. So I just wanted to make the commission aware on that one, and then there's another one.
And it basically allows more flexibility.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to front load some of.
Yeah, I mean, some of these projects, I mean, definitely go over $5 million. And we all have seen construction costs go up just in this area alone, and as well as in other cities in Maine that have these historic buildings. So it's very easy to get over $5 million in a year. So, yeah. So this gives them that flexibility.
I think that's a really important thing to help the owners of these buildings in any way we can, because there is a burden.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you and the staff taking the time to go down and testify in favor of this.
I zoomed in.
Oh, okay. Well, for you.
It's no, it's great. You don't have to go to Augusta anymore. You can zoom in your testimony.
But Augusta's great.
So, yeah, I have a question. One of the things that we struggle with every applicant that comes in here is the issue of trying to integrate the needs for historic preservation and our rules and regulations regarding that for the homeowners that are needing to do either some sort of, fixing of, something that somebody backed their car into, or any other issues, is the cost issue of trying to do that. And, I can say that we struggle with, well, geez, we really think that this may not quite meet the letter of our intent for historic preservation, but there's no way that this person can afford the $6 million it's gonna take to replace the slate on their roof or whatever that issue is. Now, I highly applaud this effort, and I'm really glad that you were there to weigh in on this. What strikes me in this, however, is that this legislation really doesn't affect the majority of the people that come before us in this commission.
Well, go to the next one.
Well, okay, but I'm going to say that
Yeah.
because it says this is a program in support of state rehabilitation tax credits for income-producing historic structures.
That's correct.
Meaning that
Commercial.
it's commercial only.
Correct.
And I would say that we probably have as many or more privately owned residences, et
Let
cetera.
me get to the next one.
Oh, okay. So this doesn't, they aren't the same, okay.
Yeah, the next one.
Please, Lynn, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
This next one is what I'm really excited about, that we have been.
Oh, okay.
We have been pushing, I've been on a couple of statewide committees, working on this one. And that is LD, you think I'd have it memorized by now?
435.
LD 435. So Part A of the bill makes changes to modernize the existing small project provisions of the historic property rehabilitation tax credit, including increasing the eligible percentage of the project from 25 to 30, and increasing the expenditure cap from 250,000 to $1 million. This part also increases the percentage of credit available for affordable housing creation to 35% for significant projects, and 45% for small projects. And then, what's most notable about this, there's a lot of changes in this, but really what's notable about this is that it can be also used for private homes that are in historic district. So, and again, it allows, that, 25% of the qualified exterior rehabilitation expenditures for a qualifying taxpayer. And that percentage of credit may be claimed that can be increased to 30% if housing is created as part of weatherization and rehabilitation efforts. So it does give a little bit more relief to homeowners that right now they don't have any tax credit for. We were hoping to push for a little bit more on the percentages on this. So hopefully in subsequent years, we'll be able to increase that percentage. Because again, I've seen it for the years that I've worked with different historic commissions. I mean, it's a huge burden, and we want to be able to give some kind of incentive that commercial projects, receive. So again, this was done. The testimony was in support of it. So.
And I'm sorry, the one you're speaking about now is 146 or 435?
435.
So maybe this has the wrong one.
I don't know.
I may have the wrong face sheet on this, but the one I have is this 435 is the one that talks about income producing structures.
Under Part A.
Maybe I have this on the wrong spot.
So the 435 is
Sorry.
an act to expand the historic property
Right,
rehabilitation tax credit.
I guess the issue is the actual verbiage here. This is.
Part A, line 76.
A program, this is section A 127 MRSA, what is that, paragraph 511, subparagraph 1. That, I don't know if that's 146 or 435. But anyway, the assurance is that what you're just discussing is actually for private homeowners as well, not commercial properties.
Yeah.
Has this passed?
And also for the creation of new housing, because
Right.
like if somebody
Sure.
is doing a preservation project on a building that has multifamily in it,
Right.
it also applies to them,
Right.
which is big.
And gives a little extra for those that have the, what is the designation?
5.
Affordable dwelling units. That's the
Correct.
comment, okay. Well, that's wonderful, thank you. And this was passed?
Well, it's gone into work session. They were supposed to have a work session the other day, and they needed to table it because their other work sessions were taking too long, so.
Okay.
So hopefully it'll get voted through.
Will you keep us updated on its progress?
Yeah, I will,
Thank
yeah.
you. I think it's just really important for the homeowners in town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We are now up to the meeting minutes portion of the agenda. Someone who was present?
A motion to accept the minutes from our past meeting as they're written. I have no adjustments myself. Are there any?
I second it.
Please, will.
I have one more thing.
Of course. Well, yeah, by all means.
Meeting minutes. I just want to talk about the findings a little, because I know, Liam, you're kind of new to the process. So the reason that we've structured it this way primarily came out of what we do with the planning board, which kind of morphed after we did have an appeal of a decision. And so in order to make sure that, the planning board is very clear that they're following all the standards and that they have evidence when they make their findings, we started drafting these findings and decisions. And so because you all are also a regulatory board, you make decisions, we thought it would be best for you to also go through the same process. So we are very specific about the language that we do put in the findings. And we go through and we put in, the exhibits that we feel show that it meets those standards. Of course, if you disagree and you want to change a finding, that's completely your purview. This is just a draft for you to go through and approve. But I just want to say that the language is important when you are going through those findings. So it's important, A, that you list the exhibits. And I would want legal's opinion on whether you can just list the statute number rather than reading the wording. Because the planning board, when they go through, they do read all of it. And they, their motion is very specific. It says, we move that the board finds that based on these exhibits, blah, 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 the project meets these standards. So I just want to reiterate that. And then also when you are going through the procedural background, if you can just say, it was deemed complete on this date, they paid all the fees, and it is certificate of appropriateness or design review, just to be very clear what you're making your motion on, that would be great. So are there any questions about that?
No questions, but a comment, just to sort of build on what Mr. Pickering had to say, which is that I think it's important for us as a group to not have more and more strict protocols for what we do restrict our discussion and the breadth of our discussion, that might go beyond just the specifics that are written down.
Well, yes, you should definitely have discussion, and you should discuss whether it meets those standards, certainly. And what you did tonight is exactly what the process is. You have that discussion up front. And if a commission member disagrees, that a project meets these standards, you should have that discussion up front, and that's why you vote on those standards, in case somebody feels it doesn't meet that. But you are limited to these standards. You can't make a decision because you feel it doesn't meet something that's outside of these standards.
I wasn't suggesting that.
Okay.
All I was suggesting, and I'm not at all objecting to the structure you're providing, I think it's excellent. But it just in the sense of the tendency when you get more regimented for things is to close your mind process a little bit more. And I want to make sure that we don't do that in our discussions. Sometimes those discussions may come up with ideas for doing something new that is an initiative or something that we might want to back or try to do in terms of going to city council and saying, hey, we don't like the way this is written. Maybe we should rewrite this. Just apropos what we've been discussing tonight.
Right. So yeah, the findings are just the formal part of it, but that discussion that you have at the beginning is the most important part where you determine all that, so.
And thank you for doing this, a lot of effort, appreciate it.
And this came because of an appeal, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate, Anya, you giving us feedback on our process, because this is only the second meeting really that we've had to do this. So we're still trying to figure it out properly, so that's really helpful.
Why?
Yeah.
It is a quest for clarity, so that our decisions are upfront, clearly understood, and able to be shared by everyone based on our process.
So that it doesn't seem arbitrary.
Right.
So back to the minutes.
Anne-Marie?
I just wanted to ask if we could please have a report on things that we've brought up. For example, properties that we have cited as being problematic. Then sometimes we don't hear back. And could we please request that
Do you mean properties that have reported to code enforcement?
properties that are, for example, like the church, where the steeple is falling off the church. And there are actual pieces coming down. It's just lucky that there's been nobody under those pieces at the moment. But
So-
it could be really very dangerous.
If you have specific properties, I'm happy to write those down, come back to you later. I can say on the church, we did talk to code enforcement about that. Unfortunately, they are limited in that if somebody can't afford to make the change, that's all they can do. But we did actually reach out to the church with some grant opportunities that they might be eligible for.
Oh, good.
There are some church-specific grants, so hopefully that will help them make those changes. I think they are interested in making the changes, but they just have financial
I
difficulties.
see, thank you.
Was the steeple grant through Maine Preservation one of the?
I think so,
Good.
yeah.
unfortunately, I think Elma needs matching funds, so I hope they can come up with it, but I
Yeah.
think that'd be a huge help to them.
Okay. Okay. Back to the minutes, please.
Yeah.
Can I have a re-motion, I guess?
Motion that we accept the minutes from our last meeting?
I second it.
Nathaniel?
Yes.
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 I think I abstained, because I wasn't present.
Correct. So one of you?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. The meetings are approved. Before I use my one and only special power as the chair of this commission, I do want to thank everyone physically present and on Zoom for your respectful conversation, even where there were definitely some very strong opinions and some passions involved. And with that note, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Edmund.
Thank you, Edmund.
Since you all did vote on this findings, we just needed to sign.
Oh, you need to sign them?
Yeah.
Oh.
You want a copy or all?
Do we?
So, do we sign if we were the ones voting last meeting or
Yeah, if you
today?
voted